I'm going with Paul Giamatti from The Leftovers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Overlays.
No, holdovers.
Holdovers, not the leftovers. That's what we have for supper.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List. And this week, we're going to ask that the students leave those teachers alone.
Leave them teachers alone.
Yeah, I think that was off key enough where we're good on the censors and everything. I think we're good. Lawyers, yeah, we're getting the green light. Yeah, that's right. This week that we're filming this is Teacher Appreciation Week. So we here at Omni Entertainment, we're spotlighting the teachers here. We know quite a few of them here and everything like that, various all grades and everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, some of the best and worst teachers on screen and whatnot here. But, actually, first, before we get into that here, we got a jam-packed episode here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It's a busy one here today, so expect a little bit of a longer one here, folks. But I do want to kick things off here with another edition of, we've tried this before, another edition of Ryan's Reactions. And I was thinking of making this the opening spotlight, but I was like, hey, let's just make it this. That way we can still do our opening spotlight and everything like that. And this is something you kind of wanted to talk about last weekend. Yep. But I want to get your thoughts more on it now. For those of you who don't know, the movie Rust premiered to theaters last weekend. The infamous movie did officially premiere and grossed barely over $25,000. So this, to me, brings up the question. Is this because no one wanted to watch it in the first place and this was just going to be a classic bomb? Or did people maybe hesitate because they didn't know if they could watch it?
I would say both and I would also throw you in. I never saw a single trailer for it. I never saw any advertisements, nothing for it. The only reason was somebody asked me if we were getting it, and then I was like, wait, what? That movie's coming out now? I didn't see anything. So I think, one, absolutely zero marketing, or if there was marketing, I never saw any of it. Two, I think because of what happened, it was so public that turned people off. Because, believe it or not, there are accidents. I don't want to say a lot, but more than you'd think, and with bigger movies than you'd think, but they don't make the headlines like this one did for some reason. So that was another thing. The public was aware of that. And then also, three, I think people just, the movie from the trailer, it really doesn't look that good. It doesn't look...
So you did see the trailer. See, I haven't even seen the trailer yet.
Yeah, I did see the trailer when I heard that it was coming out this past weekend. Theo Vaughn. So, yeah.
I guess that kind of brings us to the bigger question here, because I do think I saw a few articles kind of talking about this as well. I do agree with you. I think it is a mixture of both. As far as people probably just weren't going to watch this maybe in general. But I do wonder if there was a huge section of people who did want to see it and was like, is it okay? Is it okay if we see this? Because my philosophy has always been, if there's something that kind of bad that happens on set, obviously with the Me Too era, we're learning more and more about all that and everything. I've generally not avoided those movies still because as far as I'm concerned, yeah, there might have been one or two really bad people who were all part of this and on this set, but there were hundreds of other crew people who were just doing their job.
Yep.
So why should I avoid the movie and hurt them as well? So part of me almost thinks the same thing here. Obviously something bad happened here on set. At the same time, though, this is a little bit more tragic as well because it ended in a death. So I can see why people would be hesitant here.
Yep. And I totally get that too. And I am also a person where that it's like, yeah, there's people that worked on this film that spent a lot of time, and we should support them. And it really, I think, depends where you personally line up. I would still like to see it, just because it's that movie. A lot of people know about it, not a lot of people have seen it. And I like being in that group of, hey, I saw that movie.
I do think this is going to be one of those movies that eventually you're going to see the article. It goes to a streaming service and be like, box office bomb becomes Netflix's #1 movie.
Yeah,
like,
I
that
hate
is
those
100% is going to happen.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I bring up this topic not necessarily because I think this is one of those I don't think we really have an answer.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have an answer to this one. Is it okay to watch this one or not? I can see why people wouldn't want to.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I can easily see it both ways.
If you only want to watch it because you want to try and find the scene where the bad thing happened, then I think you're a sicko and maybe you shouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
But I do think there are, I hope there's not a lot of you out there who are like that or whatever, but I don't know. This one's a little bit of a tougher one. But yeah, it flew under the radar. I noticed the low box office returns there. It was like really, really low.
It was really low.
So
But I don't think it's in that many theaters.
So the number of theaters it was in was, it was only in 115. However, the interesting thing is there's a lot of movies above it that are beating it that are in like less than half of that. So, yes, I guess part of the reason why we're talking about this is because it did actually come to a theater closest to here, which I was already surprised of.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. Think of 2 theaters a state.
Yeah, just about.
That's crazy.
Give or take. Yeah. But, I mean, there's, like I said, there's movies above it that were only in 39, 24, 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Working Man is still in 175.
They call me a working man.
All right. Yeah. So, like I said, not much resolution on that one there today, but just thought we should talk about it a little bit. But let's move on to the opening spotlight here. Like we said before, talking about teachers in this one here. Best and worst teachers in movies. This is a little bit different than what we usually do. Usually we try to stay positive on this show. I know we started with such a cheery demeanor with Rust and everything like that. But we're going to do a little bit of a different actual scale to represent our picks in this one. I felt like this was the best way to do it. We're going to actually grade some of the best and worst teachers here. So is there a teacher we think deserves an F grade? Basically, the teacher we think is the worst in all of movies. And then which one is the best? The A grade. Which one's kind of in the middle? The C grade. You kind of get the idea here now.
Yep.
More than likely, we'll actually probably use this in future installments as well. But you have to with teachers, right?
Yep.
You got to grade them. So
You got to grade them.
they've been grading us our whole lives. The tables have officially turned. So, we're going to be talking about teachers in movies and cinema and all that sort of stuff here. Let's kick things off. Well, I guess, do you want to start with the best or do you want to start with the worst?
I'll start with the worst.
You want to start with the worst, work our way up? Okay, that's what I was thinking that too. I just want to ask you your opinion.
I'm gonna do kind of I wouldn't say controversial one because this is actually from a TV show, not from a movie. I'm going. So when kids think of teachers, you have the teacher side, some have the coach side, but you very rarely see the teacher outside of the school with a completely different vibe, different job, maybe doing these things. And some of the teachers are not good at their jobs. So I'm going with somebody who was a teacher, then decide to drop out of school and then sell drugs. I'm going with the one and only Walter White from Breaking Bad. In the first season when he's a teacher, he's a terrible teacher. He's quiet. Kids walk all over him. They make fun of him. He doesn't do anything. He's got no backbone. But then by the end of it, he's a man. Thank you.
Carter
Thank you.
approved.
Thank
Carter
you.
approved right there, I guess.
Thank you.
I would be curious, considering my pick now, hearing yours, I would be curious to see which of us actually has a higher body count right now, believe it or not. Mine, I'm going to go with here, and this one I think some people might be a little mad at, but it's true. Professor Dumbledore is one of the worst teachers ever because they even say it in that 7th one, like you were setting Harry up knowing this was going to be the end here.
Yeah.
You didn't know I don't think he knew whether or not he was going to be able to come back from that.
Yeah.
I think until he himself died and was kind of like.
He can't die unless both parts of him die.
Yeah. So you are specific. That's like,
You're raising the boy to be slaughtered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like, and not only, and That's the big thing. But also just Hogwarts in general is a pretty poorly run school.
I agree.
That whole Triwizard tournament, a dragon gets loose and starts doing property damage and everything like that. That's like if a high school held a rodeo, it broke out of the gate and started running through the halls. That principal would be fired on the spot.
Yeah, they should be.
But Dumbledore kept going for a few years there.
He was kind of untouchable.
He really was. I don't know what blackmail he had on the ministry, but he had something on him. So he has a body count himself. Someone do a tally there. Who has a bigger body count, Walter White or Dumbledore? I think it'd be close.
That's close.
Anyways, so yeah, that's the clear failing grade there. Obviously, if all your students don't necessarily survive, that's not a good. It's not a good teacher. But let's move on to the D grade then. So, arguably still pretty bad. Maybe has one or two redeeming qualities, but overall not the best teacher of all time. What do you got for the D grade here?
This one might be kind of controversial. Dewey Cox from School of Rock.
I'm surprised you had him as low. I would have bet you would have had him pretty high. I figured he'd be on your list, but I figured he would have been high.
The other two that I like, and you guys will probably destroy me for my number one pick, but I went with that because I would argue a C because he is awesome. He's great for the kids. The kids like him once they figure everything out. However, he's not teaching them anything about school stuff. And that's the only knock. I would have killed to have him as a teacher in school because I can't read and I can't write. So like we would have got along great and things would have been fine and I would have stayed the same. So I think he's great, but if I'm looking at it from a lens of who's going to be in my school, I would still have him as a teacher, but he just wouldn't be teaching.
He also takes the students out of the school, like under the radar
in his van.
Like I get, like they take students on field trips and everything like that, but usually they're like sanctioned and they're like allowed. Like they have to sneak out.
So many liabilities that,
There's a lot there. He's a fun guy. We'd all love him as a teacher, but that's only because we're not learning arithmetic.
Yep.
When we should, well, probably not arithmetic. Those kids were like in elementary school, but
yeah.
Mine, I think, is also going to be kind of an unpopular one here, or one that people wouldn't necessarily think of, but I'm looking at it again through the teacher lens, someone who we think is a good or bad educator. And I'm going to say Professor Jones from the Indiana Jones movies.
No.
Greatest action hero, one of the greatest.
Okay.
Hands down. Not a great teacher. And I specifically bring up Last Crusade in general because he's off on his fact-finding missions. He's off getting his artifacts. He comes back, and all the students are like swarming him like, I got these questions. His secretary's like, you got all these missed messages. And he's like, all right, everyone line up. I'll meet you all in turn. Yeah, they have a bunch of questions. You've been gone for who knows how long. Yeah. And then he sits in his office, and he breaks out. He jumps out of the window.
Great guy.
Like, look,
he's going on an adventure.
He wasn't at that point. He was just straight up leaving. Like, the people haven't approached him yet. But he just straight up abandons his students who have genuine questions. It's not like they're ambushing him for an autograph.
It's true.
I'm wondering if anyone actually learns anything in those classes. When he's in the classroom, he's pretty good. He does seem like he teaches pretty good. But I don't know. He's not a very reliable professor, I feel like. So is he a nice guy? Does he have knowledge and everything? Yes. But like I said, not the best one to get your questions answered, which at the end of the day, that's part of the job of a teacher.
It's part of it.
All right, let's move on to essentially the middle grade here, C grade. A little bit of both. We're starting to get into a little bit more teachers we can kind of get behind, ones we can kind of support, ones that we feel are kind of doing the job well. What do you got for C grade?
I'm going with Paul Giamatti from The Leftovers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Overlays.
No, Holdovers.
Holdovers, not The Leftovers. That's what we have for supper.
Oh, that is a movie, though, isn't it?
The Leftovers? Yeah, it's a show.
Yeah,
It was
that's
pretty
what I was
good.
thinking.
It was pretty good. I really liked his character in this. He does a great job of portraying a angry old crotchety teacher that actually does care about the kids, but they can't see that with kind of how they just how they interact. And then throughout the film, he bonds with the main character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's a really good movie. And I think he would be one of those teachers. Everybody has those teachers that you don't think you really know them at all. And then about halfway through the year, something happens. And then now it's like, oh, you're actually a great teacher. You're a good dude. So that's where I'd put that.
Yeah, I'd agree. He that first half especially, like, he comes off as a jerk probably a little bit more than he should. Mm-hmm. Like, he kind of sits there and has this demeanor of like, oh, all the students hate me. I'm like, well, that is a little bit on you, dude. But at the same time, like you said, he is trying to educate them through kind of his tough love thing. Mm-hmm. He is trying to push them in one way or another. So, so for my pick for the C grade, like I said, sort of middle of the road, I'm going to go John Kimball, a.k.a. the kindergarten cop. He does not technically have a teaching license, but he does teach the kids throughout the entire year, despite the fact that he wasn't supposed to and everything like that. And like I said, this is middle tier because in the beginning, he yells at the kids to shut up. That's not good. Mm-hmm. But he does collect himself and then gets them to start kind of learning the way he knows how is through police school. Okay, that's a point in the good category. Bad category, he probably shouldn't have punched that guy in front of the kids. Good category, the guy definitely deserved to be punched, though. Let's be honest here. He was being abusive and all that. But there's a little bit of that back and forth throughout the whole movie. I think that's the point. Like, he does learn to be sort of a teacher, you know, learn through experience. You know, that sort of thing happens every once in a while. But at the same time, he still has that inexperience in him that kind of takes over from here or there. So I would also argue probably one of Arnie's like funniest roles early on as well.
I'd agree with that.
I think a little bit different Arnold there. So yeah, I'd say Kindergarten Cop gets a C in my book, maybe C minus, just because no teaching degree, but whatever. Let's move on to the B grade. This is where Nick lived throughout all of high school, pretty much B. Sometimes I would have a timeshare in the A, but for the most part, it was within the Bs. So probably relate most of this one here. But these are essentially kind of our runner-up, maybe one that we're like, you kind of want to put in the A's, but just not quite there yet. I'll start us off with this one here. I minimized the wrong page. There we go. I had two I was really debating here. And I think I'm going to go with Miss Honey from Matilda. Doesn't really matter which version, if you want to say the musical version or the 90s version. I've seen the 90s version, so we'll say that one. But she is a really, really good teacher in that she spots the potential out of Matilda right away and tries to find a way to get it out of her in a positive way. Mm-hmm. There are movies and TV shows and obviously some real life examples where people see some times that potential in the students and try to like pull it out of them forcefully, cutting off their social life, and it ultimately kind of does more damage to them than anything else. And not only that, she ends up kind of just being like one of the only adults she can trust. Mm-hmm. You know, Matilda's not in the best home life, unfortunately, which is really scary when you consider her powers and everything. But just the fact that she sees the potential in Matilda and kind of nurtures her and all that sort of stuff, I think she's a really good representation of a teacher and everything. So I would call that my my B grade here. How about you? You got one you've thought of here?
For my B grade, I'm going Coach McFarland. From McFarland, USA. Very inspirational story about getting some students onto the track team and kind of how they overcame the struggles they had in their life and with the whole community and kind of put this school on the map for running. Just a great film. Good. You can tell he cares a lot about the players, a lot about the students. He cares more about them as people than just as athletes. So worth a watch.
Yeah, good pick right there. For my final one here, We're gonna go with the A, the top grade here. And for any of you who maybe noticed our set, might have noticed I left a little clue as to what my pick would be, actually. Miss Nordberry from Mean Girls. Not only is she just a good math teacher in general, but you have in both the musical and the original version just kind of that moment where she has this impossible task of trying to heal this divide amongst all the cliques with like no prep time. Mm-hmm. She's just, all of a sudden the principal's like, can you handle this? And she's just like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll heal the divide that's been tearing apart high schools for a century now or whatever. Yeah, I could just do that. And she does actually a really good job at it, considering it's pretty on the fly. And I would add to the fact that she could have easily hated Lindsay Lohan's character for accusing her of selling drugs. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she outright forgives her, but she does kind of see where she was in that, look, there's peer pressure and trying to fit in. There's peer pressure and just kind of going along with a bit, even though it's mean and whatever. And she is kind of like, look, I'm not cool with what you accused me of that, but how about you join this math thing and we'll call it even or whatever. Like, she had every right to hate her, not necessarily knock her grade down because that would be kind of unethical or anything like that, but just like completely ignore her and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I would. Someone accused me of selling drugs that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, if they accused me of selling drugs I was selling, that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Not admissible in court, by the way. But yeah, I just say overall, I think she's a pretty good teacher considering how she had to really roll with the punches there throughout that movie. But hey, we talk a lot about movies on this channel, but sometimes the ones we talk about aren't the most accessible. That's where the Marshall-Lyon County Library comes in handy. They have a great collection of physical media, as well as a couple of online services with many options for movies, TV shows, and documentaries. It's easy. Just get your own library card at the Marshall-Lyon County Library and gain access to their large variety of movies, TV shows, and of course, books. Also, be sure to check back every month as we here at Popcorn Bucket List make specific movie recommendations based on a monthly theme. So head on over to the Marshall-Lyon County Library for some of our favorites and check out the channel to get even more movie recommendations. And now, on with the show! All right, how about you? What do you got for your A grade here, your top teacher?
All right, this might be hot. This might be heavy. When somebody says they have a good teacher, what do you expect? What do you think that they mean when they say that? Do you think they have a teacher that's funny? Do you think they have a teacher that cares about them individually? Do you think they have a teacher that maybe yells? Like, what do you think?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
Rhetorical?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I'd say one that has a little good sense of humor and it is pretty good.
Yeah.
But overall, just, answers the students' questions and tries to have a discussion with them.
Would you say that the teachers want the very best out of their kids?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Do you think it would be appropriate for the teachers to kind of push their kids to get the very best out of their kids?
I don't know, but every minute you keep describing this as more, I'm gonna have to edit. So just
okay.
Let's cut the foreplay here.
Well, this is all leading into it. I'm going with Fletcher Cox. I think it's Fletcher Cox from Whiplash. J.K. Simmons, music teacher. Very controversial, I hear. But I'm going at it from a sheer academic. And if you really want the most out of your students, you want them to be their very best, push them to the best, then you accept nothing but the best. You get from them the most that they possibly can give. And you know what? By the end of the movie, yeah, there's some bumpy moments in the movie, but when he plays at the end and ruins his concert, he did it. He accomplished it. He was perfect for that moment. And he wouldn't have been perfect if it wasn't for the teacher.
I can't believe you went there. I mean, look, you're not wrong. Except for the fact that you say there's some bumpy moments at the end, completely glossing over the bumpy moments at the beginning and middle.
Yeah, there's a lot of bumpy moments.
He threw a chair at him or whatever. Yep. I was tempted to almost go off set and grab one of the chairs and chuck them at you and feel like, did you feel educated?
Yeah.
You were dragging during your description.
Yeah.
That is definitely a take.
Yeah.
It's definitely a way.
I'm not saying that that's perfect or that's what I would do, but he is demanding excellence from his students, and he gets excellence by the end. So if you're evaluating a teacher as did you get everything out of your student that you possibly could, then yeah. If a teacher's job is to extract that and get that out of them, then that's what they did.
Look, I don't agree with that fact. I would have put him at like at least a C because I feel like, yeah, that's pretty good, but the chair whipping thing is going to knock you down a few points. Anyways, all right.
Different times.
It was like, I don't know.
That was different times.
Okay, it was like 13, 14 years ago. That movie came out in 2011, whatever. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, there's our picks for some of the best and worst teachers. Some of them showing up in different spots than I thought they would be, for sure. Let us know in the comments. Who do you think is the best or possibly worst teacher in movie history? Is there one you'd want to give an A grade, C grade, anything like that? Let us know in the comments down below. All right, let's move on to the weekly preview here. Like I said, a lot to talk about in this episode and a very, very busy weekend. It's the tale of two cities here. Last weekend we had not a lot, but they were some big ones. Mm-hmm. This weekend there's a lot, not as many big ones, just a lot of like little ones to get through here. So let's break it all down for you here. First things first, Wednesday, May 7th, already out by the time this video is out. Last Bullet coming straight to Netflix. This is a French action movie, and actually the third movie in what's now being called the Lost Bullet trilogy. Oh. A guy by the name of Leno. You see, because it was cars, I kept reading it as Limo.
Leno?
Limo for the longest time, because the guy drives cars, but it's an N. Anyways, a guy by the name of Leno, he's known for building some indestructible cars, and he decides to go on the warpath to take down some corruption once and for all.
Oui.
How long were you holding on to that?
It's just it was a French film.
Okay, all right, whatever. I will say the action in this movie does look pretty good.
Mm-hmm. It's surprising because I think there's a lot of places around the world that do action really well. It's not just like the United States. Like there is some good films that have good action, and we've kind of known that for a while. But every once in a while, when they release something new anywhere, it's like, oh, that looks really good. I'm excited to see that. Yeah,
so like I said, that one's coming straight to Netflix here this past Wednesday. But let's move on to the weekend here, Friday, May 9th. Got a couple pretty good ones to check out here. Fight or Flight, coming to theaters, rated R. The Josh Hartnett comeback is continuing with this movie as a hitman hired to bring in a fugitive known as the Ghost. They want him alive, however. You know, that's already kind of a big challenge, bringing in a dangerous person alive. Well, to add to it, while also on this plane, there's a lot of people on there who want the same guy dead. Hence, there's where the conflict ensues. Basically, have you seen the movie Bullet Train?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Bullet Train, but now on a plane.
Yep.
Bullet Train's now on a plane, and it looks insane.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. I was trying to think of another one, and I couldn't. That was good. That was good.
What are your thoughts on this one overall?
I don't like his hair. That platinum blonde tips thing. I don't.
Second movie, we've had more comments on someone's hair than the actual movie.
Don't like that.
Yeah, that'll be that'll be part of our end of the year recap. Worst hairdos in movies.
Yeah, it probably should be.
Make a note of that, Carter. Write that down.
Just put it on the top of the list right now. It's bad.
I will say it was an interesting choice, for sure. But I don't know. Josh Hartnett looks like he's having some fun.
Yeah, I like him. Ever since we watched, was it Trapped again? Or Trapped? I really enjoyed it.
On a side note, I don't know where this plane took off from exactly, but their airport security is whack.
Yeah, not very good.
There's a lot of weapons. And there's parts
they probably went through the one where what's his name was working and he started chasing down the terrorist.
Carry On.
Yeah,
they were so busy with that terrorist.
There
just happened to be another terrorist happening in the same airport.
Yeah.
They were so distracted with that one, they didn't have a chance to screen all those. Yeah,
Yep.
There we go. That's a theory. I like that. That's a good theory. Also coming out this weekend is another action movie called Shadow Force. This movie stars Kerry Washington and Omar Sy, who were once undercover agents, a part of an organization known as Shadow Force. However, they fell in love and decided to have a family, thus cutting their ties with the organization. Now, they are on the run and must stop their former employer from killing them and their son.
Oh,
What was that?
don't want their son to get killed.
Oh, yeah, but I couldn't tell if you were... Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess that's a reaction. I guess from the kid's perspective, I'm not sure if this looks like the worst family road trip ever or the best. Because, you're a kid. You just kind of like explosions and fast cars.
Yeah, for a kid, you think you're safe all the time. So it's great.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
You don't know what death is or whatever. So,
don't even know what that...
Yeah, from the kid's perspective. I'd love to see this movie from the kid's perspective entirely. Like, can we get that greenlit? Where it's like like an action movie, but all from the perspective of the kid.
And it's like him cutting to like, oh, I can't wait to eat some popsicles today. Is my car at home red or green?
Yeah.
Explosion.
Like,
people shooting.
Do you ever see that episode of Family Guy where it was like all from Stewie's perspective?
Yeah.
It was like a POV and it's just him thinking about stuff. Like, I want that, but in an action movie.
Yeah.
Where he's like, ooh, that was cool. Kind of looks like my red race car at home.
Yeah.
Something
like race cars.
Yeah, something like that. I will say, though, this movie does have some good action to it. It was directed by Joe Carnahan, who did The A-Team, The Gray, and Cop Shop, just to name a few. I know you kind of like The Gray a little bit. I kind of like The A-Team more than I think most people. So, but also coming out this weekend, Clown in the Cornfield. Try saying that one 5 times fast. This one is also rated R. Not a very kid-friendly movie weekend. No, just gonna put that out there.
I'm pumped for Clown in the Cornfield.
I know you are.
I love it, and it's a Shudder film.
Yeah.
So like, to me, see now this is my bias coming in. This is a made-for-streaming services movie that, oh hey, this actually is really good. Let's put it on Shudder, or put it in the theaters. So. But usually, a lot of times when I say that, it's a lot of times it's like, oh, it's a made for Netflix movie. It's gonna be garbage. So like, I sometimes goes both ways, but I'm thinking it's gonna be really good.
Well, and like you said, it is produced by Shudder. We've talked about them a lot. They're the streaming service that pretty much focuses primarily on horror. Yep. This one, it kind of has not some. Well, I should say, don't take this one seriously.
Yeah.
Because the movie is not. And I mean that in a good way.
Yep.
It is trying for a little bit more of a comedic effect here, especially when they're like trying to work the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I get people are going to be like, young people. Well, yeah, if you've never been taught that phone specifically, like, I don't know if I could make it work.
Yep. I could. I know.
See, I think those phones were just getting out of service by the time I was kind of growing up, though.
Yeah.
That's just, there's not a lot of an age gap between us, but there is enough where there is that transition.
Yep. Dial-up internet.
Oh, yeah, I know. I felt a little bit of that one there. But, yeah, basically this movie is, there's like this big festival. They have this sort of clown mascot. The small town kind of rallies around here while someone decides to actually dress up as this mascot and go on a little bit of a killing spree here. Looks kind of like Terrifier, but a little bit funnier.
Yeah. A little Terrifier, a little Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's going to be great.
Also coming out this weekend, Juliet and Romeo. First PG-13 movie here, it looks like. The classic Shakespearean tale, but this time as a musical. All original songs here, I should say. These were all recently written to fit into the story of old-timey Verona and all that sort of stuff. I feel like you could kind of get a little bit of a Hamilton vibe from this, where it is set in the old times, but the music is modern.
Yeah. Doesn't Katy Perry sing a song in here? Or is that just the girl's voice that sounds a lot like Katy Perry in one?
I did not see anything that mentioned Katy Perry.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised, because I think I did read the guy who wrote this has worked with other pop stars.
Okay. And remember, Katy Perry's a robot, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know when I don't know when Katy Perry would have time. She's up in space.
Oh yeah, she's
up in. She went.
She's not up in space. She's taking space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Katy Perry saved us. Thank you, Katy Perry. Thank you.
From all of us here on PBL.
We owe you one, Kate Perry.
We owe you one.
This movie looks not for me.
It doesn't. I will give them this. They are trying to do something different with the same old story by making it a musical. For one, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Granted, it's not like I've watched every single version of Romeo and Juliet that's ever been made. But I will say one thing that they did that I felt like was kind of a lazy, them trying to be like we're different, was the flipping of the title. Instead of Romeo and Juliet, it's Juliet and Romeo.
Juliet and Romeo.
Which I could only see paying off if they focus more on Juliet. I guess, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm curious what your thoughts on this. I always felt like it was a little bit 50-50 the focus on Romeo and Juliet, a little bit more towards Romeo.
Yeah, I always thought it was
maybe
like 60-40.
Yes, that's
Romeo
probably better.
and Juliet.
Better. So if they do kind of go a little bit more in on Juliet, then I could see the point here. But
yeah,
the trailer didn't show that, I guess I should say.
No.
But also the trailer looked like it was being edited by some intern from high school.
Yeah, it was like, hey, we're going to need you to get a trailer cut up by Friday. Can you just do that quick?
Like, there's no transitions in the music. It's just like, here's a scene with some of our background music, and then hard cut. To another scene with our background music, hard cut.
Yeah, and it's like, this looks, ugh.
I want to give this movie a fair chance because out of all the trailers, I think this is one of the
worst trailers.
I mean, yes, from
lowest quality,
from an editing standpoint, yes. As far as trying to show off the movie, it seemed like somebody went into iMovie and used one of their pre-made things and just like put the right scenes in. But anyways, another movie coming out here this weekend. Like I said, very busy here. Nona's coming to Netflix. In case you didn't get enough Italian in your movies from Romeo and Juliet here this weekend, you can have this movie as well. This one stars Vincent Vaughn as he quits his job after his mother's passing to open an Italian restaurant featuring an authentic Italian dishes made by authentic Italian mothers. I don't know if this movie's going to be good, but it sure made me hungry.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn's kind of those. Some of his movies can be fantastic, and some of them are like sleeper hits, like Brawl on Subblock 99, and some of them are just like, oh, okay, that wasn't very good.
I will say I don't think this one is going to be laugh out loud funny, but I do think it is going to be kind of that charm humor, and
which he's good at.
Yes, I think he does best when he's not trying as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like Dodgeball is one of his better movies, and I think it's partially because he's not trying as hard to be the funny guy.
I agree.
So I will say I think this movie has that going for it. But like I said, if you want some inspiration for some Italian cuisine, this movie looks good.
Yeah.
The food, at the very least, looks good. Again, can't speak to the quality of the movie. The food looked good.
But the food looks good.
Food looked good. Last but certainly not least, coming out this weekend, Summer of '69. This one's coming straight to Hulu. Unrated, but let's just say make sure the kids are in bed before you watch this one. Could say that for sure. A high school girl wishes to get together with a cute boy in her high school before graduation, so she hires a local exotic dancer to basically be her Yoda, a.k.a. her mentor. There's a little bit for Star Wars Day here. Still celebrating that, I suppose.
There you
go. The movie stars Chloe Fineman from SNL, and the main character, I should say, Abby, is played by Sam Morelos, who was in that 90s show. I thought was kind of funny on that. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on this one?
Nah, looks okay. Your classic teen. We're going to do it.
Notice how we're avoiding some certain words in this one here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought the trailer wasn't like the funniest thing ever, but I do see the potential here.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the cast. I think Chloe Fineman is very funny, and I think Sam Morelos is very funny. So I think, if nothing else, the chemistry you could see between the two of them in the trailer.
I think there's an opportunity for it. I think it could be there. So I have to give it a shot.
Yeah. But with all that said and done here, let's move on to some number one recommends. I got myself written down here first this week, but I'm sure we're going to talk about Thunderbolts when it's your turn. So I'm just going to briefly mention, I've been seeing Mythbusters pop up on a few different streaming services. I've been rewatching those. Those guys are that's still a good show to watch. it's so educational and so fun because they blow stuff up and a lot of fun characters and everything too. You could skip season 1. They don't introduce the other 3 of them till I think about season 2.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
Season 1 is a little rougher. Like you
Yeah.
could tell, like season 1, they weren't like rehearsing, or it was literally just them pointing a camera at them doing science, and he's like trying to explain it like first take.
Yeah.
And then finally they figured out like, okay, let's sit them down, actually kind of have them rehearse walk it through and everything like that. So season 1's a little rough, but the later seasons when they introduce the rest of the gang and everything too, I think is really good. So yeah, Mythbusters on a couple different streaming services. I think I saw it on Max. I think I saw it on Disney Plus. So
Yeah.
either or. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Thunderbolts?
When you say Thunderbolts, do you mean the new Avengers?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, gotta add the asterisks.
Yeah.
Gotta add the asterisks.
I'm super pumped. That's probably the whole reason why they had the asterisks.
Oh, 100%.
Made the asterisks a big deal was because it's like, oh, look at the name, asterisks, is that important? And it's like, oh, no, it's just the new Avengers. Loved it. I thought it was really good. I thought the character development for Chance, what's his name? Not Bob, but what's his character name?
Sentry?
Sentry, yeah. I liked that. I thought he was good. I loved how dark it was, too, when he was, it looked like a shadow. It didn't look like just black. It looked like nothing behind it black. It looked deep. I really liked that. The humor was great. It did a great job kind of covering the serious tone, but also on a softer side. So I thought it was really good. I'm excited to see where this goes. Yeah. And I'm just happy Florence Pugh was a real Avenger now. It's cool.
The one thing I want to add, and it's only because I didn't really have a chance to talk about this during our short review when I first saw it when it came out, is it's not the most action-packed finale, and that's the point. I think one of the greatest things about comic books, whether it be the original stories, TV shows, movies, whatever like that, is that they took real-life things, real-life situations, real-life things we were dealing with in the real world and put it in this comic book world. So it was almost easier to digest and relate to. Because then it was like, oh, here's sort of a personified version of what someone's going through. So either someone who has experienced that can see it and yeah, no, that's kind of what it is. Or someone who hasn't experienced it can kind of see it and go, oh, that's what it's like. That's what they're going through. And we're not going to kind of say specifically, but it deals with some huge mental health things, especially throughout it, I should say. But at the end, especially, it's not like the big action. You have to land the biggest punch to defeat the bad guy. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I really, really enjoyed this movie for going and taking that sort of route. So I would say at the very least, the ending is really kind of worth the price of admission here, just because it is a little something different. And not only something different to say it was something different, but something different that I think was positive and really kind of represents why some of the comics are the best piece of media we have out there sometimes. So that's just my quick thought. That wasn't really quick. I kind of rambled there a little bit, but I shouldn't say quick. But those are just some of the thoughts I want to add for Thunderbolts / the new Avengers.
The new Avengers.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. May is not only the start of summer movie season, but it is also Mental Health Month, which is, I think, another reason why they had Thunderbolts at the beginning of May.
Yep.
I mentioned last week, the other show I kind of work on, the Mustang Blueprint, we had some pretty big interviews coming up. We sat down with various mental health experts over these last few months through various fields and expertise, and kind of sat down and had some of these tough conversations. We'll be releasing them week by week here throughout the month of May. So if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, or you just want to learn a little bit more about the subject itself, check out those episodes once a week throughout the month of May. For myself, Ryan, I'm sorry. I said you were Carter because I was reading ahead of myself there. For myself, Ryan, and Carter up in the booth there, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies.